here is a short story. Since ancient times, women have been in society, providing special services for money or religious reasons. Time and customs turned them into rejected ones. Then they were brought up to the social elite, getare and gaishi, temple priests and courtesans. They were called and behaved differently, but all of them were united by one thing: the love of sale. But before we start, be sure to click the subscribe button, because this way you make our channel better. Done? Then sit down more comfortably, light up the aromatic candles, and let's go. Archaeologists consider the Chimera civilization to be one of the oldest. In those ancient times, priests, intermediaries between people and supernatural forces, used to have a special influence in society. They had been in the field of knowledge for a long time, from astronomy, which was necessary for predicting the future, to the cute goddess of music, who accompanied the declamation in honor of the highest heavenly powers. Just like priests were also respected. At the top of the hierarchy stood the so-called lukur, who became the girls of the most noble families. Of the number of priests, the lukur was chosen as the bride of God, together with the ruler, who took part in the annual rite of the sacred marriage of the combination. These girls did not always give a lunch of impoliteness. On the contrary, in the number of their duties, the service of the goddess was included the temple prostitution, which was mainly held by the priests of lower ranks, was surrounded by the angels of holiness, and the income from it was increased by the wealth of the house of God. These beauties were sent to the permanent courtyards, where travelers stopped, and where they were engaged in their craft of worshipping the goddess. At the same time, they were revered and treated with great respect in society. Chinese inchi are probably the first in the history of the Putans who were taken under control of the government. According to historians, Emperor Wu Ding hired women with a certain purpose, so that they would accompany his army on the campaign and entertain soldiers. Inchi literally means a camp of scoundrels. However, it is believed that even before that, another Chinese emperor, Yue, created the first public houses where he recruited widows of the dead warriors. The women who worked there, although they were not respected as Schumer's judges, were not rejected in society. Rather, their status was not defined, and they were not particularly preferred to be mentioned. But ancient Greek auletrides and guitarists were quite famous and took a special position in society. The first were not only masters on the intimate floor, but also elegant dancers and skillful flutists. Some of them were good at juggling, fencing, and were good at acrobatics. Many auletrides gave public performances on the streets during religious ceremonies and festivals, and in private situations they served an intimate character. Hetero literally means a friend, a companion. In ancient Greece, women who were free and even relatively independent were called so famous guitarists were usually well educated. Some of them played a significant role in public life. In their homes, the girls met many outstanding ancient Greek political figures, poets, sculptors, and so on. As a rule, the heterae were in the possession of a rich patron, and they were paid a lot of money for their charity. The social status of such a profession was quite high. The heterae entertained, consoled, and educated men. At the same time, such a woman could refuse to be close to them if she did not like them. In addition, such Greek women served as models for artists and sculptors. They greeted poets in the theater and orators in the academies. They were the jewel of any holiday, military, and civil ceremony. You can see here one of the outstanding heteras of the Spasio Ismaile, as well as other strong women in the history of feminism. Indian priests of Devastasi served the Hindu goddess of fertility, Yalama. However, life was not easy and divine at all. When girls reached puberty, their parents held their... Surprisingly, this custom has lived almost to this day. This practice was officially declared illegal only in 1988, and Devadasi is irreversible. They have no way back. Even if women decide to give up this lifestyle, they will never get married. Unlike other Indian priests of love called Ganika, the Indian version of Japanese Gaish, these women took a rather high position in the social hierarchy. It was believed that a night with Gannet would bring luck, happiness, and prosperity to men. In addition to the super skills in the intimate sphere, they were real artists. Gannett could only be called a woman if she mastered 64 types of art. It is not surprising that since ancient times, representatives of this profession have taken an honorable place in royal courtyards. In the Middle Ages, no legal prostitution, no separate conditions for the priests of love were discussed. Christian religion strictly forbade the plot love to marry. But historians of that time preserved the description of how intimate services were bought in women's monasteries. So, if you believe the testimony of that time, in one of the monasteries in the Swabian Ur, things are even more indecent than in a public house. Day and night, the monastery gates are open to payable visitors. When the case gets too far, the patron of the Herseg monastery, Julia Brown Schwick, is in a state of patience and orders the nun to be buried alive. In the monastery of St. Elizabeth in Memmingen, because of the scattered image of the nun's life, a strict curfew is introduced. And in another monastery near Ulma, there is such bad fame that the church authorities are forced to carry out an investigation, the results of which are the most terrifying fears. By 1484, the chairman of the commission, Bishop Gambus Kostelski, in horror reports about the incredibly expensive clothes he found in the cellars, and that most monks are in an interesting position. The check of the Zeflingen monastery in the same year shows a similar picture. In the local cellars, too, there are disloyal love letters, and most monks are pregnant. In the days of Charles the Great, prostitution in the Frankish kingdom was already spread so widely that it was perceived as a time of misfortune. Therefore, the founder of the Carolingos dynasty, who cannot be called an example of a good deed, was forced to include in his laws an extremely strict ban on free women. But the law did not achieve the desired goal, and not a single military campaign was without a care of the marketeers. The crowds of available women followed the crusaders to the east. The summer letter of the monarch Bertolda states that in 1096, women were attached to the first detachment of young warriors in men's clothing, and considers the defeat of the army as a punishment for the crucifixion. You can see more details about the shocking stories of the Crusades in this short story. In order to somehow justify the presence of women in the campaign, various duties are imposed on them, which have nothing in common with the main craft they wash, prepare for soldiers, sell different goods, and look after the wounded. As a result, the prostitutes lead an extremely busy life, and they are even attracted to construction work. Starting from the 15th century, in free Italian cities, courtesans appear. Many of them are treated as Greek Gethers. They are educated representatives of the profession, who are contained in one or several noble guardians. They differ from common prostitutes in that they could offer a pleasant society and an interesting conversation. Honest courtesans dressed as luxurious and fashionable as noble ladies, so they were not distinguished from the outside. Therefore, according to the law issued in 1546, the priests of love should wear the signs of distinction, yellow veil or yellow band, at a visible place. In the West, there's a long-standing opinion that geishas are girls of easy behavior, but that's not true. In the Japanese culture, geishas are girls who entertain their clients, guests, Japanese dances, singing, holding tea ceremonies, and talking about anything. The name of the profession consists of two hieroglyphs, art and man. At first, geishas were men. Samurai considered communication with women as an impure and unworthy of the valiant and learned men. Therefore, representatives of their own gender, as educated and capable of supporting intellectual conversation for a cup of sake, preferred. And only over time, there were gay women who pushed gay men out of the arena. Being gay is a hard job. Such a girl should entertain her clients with singing and dancing. To make a good impression, she should properly conduct a tea ceremony, be able to play musical instruments, play the role of the hostess of the evening, entertaining guests. Such women have been training their skills for years in special houses. The girls were called maiko, and in addition to studying, they should always look good. The expensive kimono is correctly selected. Makeup, well-decorated hairstyle. After the training course, the girls were invited to tea houses, where their main job took place. By the way, geisha could leave her profession and even marry. It would be a complete disgrace to deny the existence of prostitution in our time. This profession is illegal in some countries under the control of the state. The famous Red Lanterns in Holland or sex tours in Hong Kong are an integral part of modern history. We won't be talking about different types of modern prostitution. This is a short story, not a specific guide. Let's just say that recently in the story of the Bride of Love, a new page has been opened. Many representatives of the first ancient have switched to the internet. By the way, it's curious that prostitution is done not only by people, but also by penguins. The Adelis penguins build nests for laying eggs from the pebbles. There is no joke about the good stones. Some females are engaged in prostitution for them, although they have a permanent partner. These ladies find lonely males who also make nests in the hope of starting a family. They let them mate with them, and after that they take one or several stones to their nest. The story of prostitution is so diverse and voluminous that it's impossible to put all the nuances into one issue. So write in the comments what facts you think are interesting. And of course, don't forget to tell the story of what people, things, and phenomena you would like to see in the next issues. As always, it was a short story. See you soon!